terms of how we're working with entrepreneurs to create an ecosystem to help them to thrive. So we're very strategic and intentional about how we interact and engage. We're going to skip ahead to a little bit of the other content around collaboration just for the sake of time. So one way that we actually work with these businesses, because I like to talk about the outcomes first and then tell you how we got there. Because again, the businesses that we work with in Atlanta, where the typical business, let's say if we compare Caucasian or white-owned businesses to black-owned businesses, there's 11 times gap. One is larger than the other. But the businesses that we work with, the gap is only 2 times. So we're actually had some success in terms of closing that gap for the businesses that we work with to help them build this infrastructure, the systems, and the processes to help them grow. And the one way we do that is through our platform called Big Ideas. So Big Ideas, in short, is inspire, develop, execute, accelerate, and scale. So with this process, this is the process that we walk our entrepreneurs through. Now, I've been an entrepreneur, and I know many entrepreneurs in the room oftentimes don't like to go through a process. Can I get an amen? That's what I thought, right? We like to get to the end. We like the solution. We like just help us make the money. But for us, we realize if that educational or knowledge foundation is not there in place, sometimes quick money turns into money that actually goes away very quickly. If you make it quickly, go away if you don't know how to sustain it. So our goal is, how do we sustain businesses? How do we help them build for the long term? So this is our educational model and platform where we take them from concept to company. Actually, let's back up one step. We take them from curiosity to concept, concept to company, company to customers, customers to capacity and capital, and then helping them to scale. So we walk all of our businesses through that process so that they can build sustainability and scalability over the long term, because we don't want companies that again, build fast, but also fail fast. So we've seen a lot of success and growth in this process, but as I mentioned earlier, it takes a village to raise a business. So for us, we have a very robust village. But even before I talk about the village, I want to mention one thing that I mentioned earlier this week in some of my other sessions. In addition to the curriculum, we focus on something else that a lot of entrepreneur programs do not focus on. We call it the whole entrepreneur. And I said this in the other sessions that I taught this week. And I asked the question, and I'm going to ask the question to you all too. Are there any robots in the room? No. If you are, you're probably not going to raise your hand because you don't want anybody else to know. Right? And why do I ask that question? I ask that question is because the people who run businesses are human beings. They have souls, they have emotions, they have pains, they have hurts, they have struggles, right? They have challenges, right? They have opportunities. All those things are real for the entrepreneur. But you know who typically disregards that about the entrepreneur? The entrepreneur themselves. Most entrepreneurs go hard, and oftentimes they go hard for other people and aren't taking care of themselves, right? I believe your health is your greatest wealth, right? So that's what we operate, how we focus on at the Russell Center. We don't only want to help businesses focus on their financial health, but what about your personal health? What about your mental health? What about your emotional health? There's a statistic that says there's 83% of entrepreneurs have mental health challenges, compared to 48% of non-entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurship is hard, it's challenging, it's difficult, but who's helping the entrepreneur take care of themselves, right? Oftentimes it's hard to find that support. So that's one of the things that we believe that's helped us to be successful as growing entrepreneurs, is helping entrepreneurs think about things that are non-business related. Again, like your health. Like, we do cooking demonstrations to teach them how to cook healthy at home. We go take them on hikes, right? We have networking events that don't involve business, but let's just go have some fun and connect and build relationships. That's a critical and important component of you growing a sustainable business over the long term, because the truth is, oftentimes entrepreneurs suffer from what I like to call the starving baker syndrome. You're baking bread for everybody else, but the baker's not eating themselves, right? Or the cobbler has no shoes, making shoes for everyone else, not wearing shoes themselves, right? So you got to remember to take that's just a free nugget of information for today. I'm not going to charge you for that. Just take that with you. Just make sure you take care of yourself so you can be around for the long term to enjoy the prosperity of your business. So as we talk about this village, I'm going to jump ahead to our ecosystem partners. So this is why I said your banner looks very much so like the banner that we have. Let's say it's going to catch up in a second. Right? So we've been very strategic in how we incorporate several different partners. Now in Atlanta, again, we're fortunate there are a lot of corporations, and a lot of large corporations that are in Atlanta. But for many businesses and even many nonprofits, so we are actually a nonprofit organization, oftentimes we look at that and say, wow, can they just write us a check to support our operations? Can they just give us some money, right, to make an impact? We have taken that a little step further, said it's not just the money that we need, it's other strategic resources. So we've been very intentional about how we cultivate these relationships, but it's the additional things that I'm going to share with you about how we navigate these relationships in order to get the resources directed to the businesses. And again, as a nonprofit organization, yes, we need the money. Yes, we need resources to support and make sure we're sustainable over the long term. But I'm going to share just a few examples with how we work with these corporations very strategically and very intentionally, right, to grow and develop our entrepreneurs. So one category that we utilize them is in program faculty. So as I mentioned earlier with our Big Ideas program, we have educational opportunities, right, where we help entrepreneurs build really the foundational knowledge of what they need to grow their business. But if you saw some of the logos on the other side of that page, and so let's take just a couple examples. For example, who better to learn warehousing and logistics than from the global warehousing and logistics leader like UPS, right? Who better to learn finance than from an organization like MasterCard, right? So we've learned and walked to the table with some of these companies and saying, yes, we need the financial resources, but what other things can your company offer to support our entrepreneurs? We also, of course, the program sponsors, but we have some very specific and unique programs, and I'm gonna give you a couple of examples where we've targeted specific needs of our businesses, and how do we get, again, a program sponsored? Yes, maybe to support the overall organization, but also support some very specific programs, and I'm gonna give you a case study of a couple of those. Also, technical assistance. So we have the classroom sessions that we work with our students, but what we also have is one-on-one opportunities. So, for example, we have a law firm, a very prominent law firm in Atlanta called King & Spalding. Well, these are very effective lawyers in doing the work that they do. But any entrepreneur in the room ever had to pay a lawyer some money to get them out of trouble or just to deal with a situation, right? Are lawyers cheap here in Uganda? Okay, they're not cheap in Atlanta either, right? And no offense to the lawyers in the room, you all keep doing a great job, keep doing what you're doing. We need you, right? But because could be such a challenging expense for entrepreneurs, we worked at King & Spalding and determined if you all can give some pro bono legal support, which is free legal support to our entrepreneurs, that's an expense our entrepreneurs don't have to pay. So with King & Spalding, over the last 3 years, they've donated over 1,000 hours of pro bono consulting directly to our entrepreneurs. Right, so that's an incredible advantage and benefit for entrepreneurs who get some of the best lawyers in Atlanta working with them on their business. So that's just one example of an innovative collaborative partnership that we work with the businesses. Another is an accounting firm. Any accountants in the room? Few accountants in the room, okay, exactly. How many business owners in the room need an accountant? Hopefully all your hands should be up. If you don't have an accountant, you need an accountant, right? So again, accountants, right? That's just another business expense. So we have an accounting firm who offers free consultative services on the accounting side to our businesses. That's an expense the business doesn't have to pay, but they get this expert advice. And so when we think about, again, collaboration and innovation, sometimes we use the term get out of the box. Whatever term you want to use about innovation, it's relevant from that standpoint. Of course, some of our providers also provide business capital. So with that capital, of course, that could be in the form of grants. It could be sometimes in the form of education. But here's some of the best education that entrepreneurs can get is to know what the process looks like to go get capital. Sometimes we just jump into the process to go get capital, whether it be a loan, whether it be equity, whether it be a grant, and not having an education about the process that then limits our ability to actually succeed actually getting a loan. So we work with some of our capital providers in order to basically learn the process, build a relationship. So here's something else free I'll give you. Make a relationship with your banker before you need them, right? Because when you build that relationship, by the time it's time to then go apply for that loan, now you're not just an application. right? You're actually a person with the business who has a story. They know your story. Now, there's a lot better opportunity for them to be an advocate for you in that process. So when we look at our partners, we look at how we engage with them. Again, our goal is to say, how can we bring education? How can we bring expertise? How can we bring innovation? How can we bring strategy to our businesses through the partnerships that we engage with? And I'll talk about just a few specific examples that I've already given. So another one is the Walt Disney Company. Anybody heard of Walt Disney? Anybody? Anybody been to Disneyland before? Disney World? Okay, a few people, yes. So our team in our organization is supported by the Disney Company as a donor. But we have a special program called the Supply Chain Accelerator. So the goal with that is to help our businesses get in position for contracts with corporations and government entities. And those are our more mature businesses, right? And there's a different level of expertise needed, different level of strategy needed. So Disney has come along and said, well, we're not only going to support you as an organization, we're going to support that specific program. So one opportunity we got to go do is actually take a group of 65 entrepreneurs from Atlanta down to Orlando, Florida, not to ride on rides, which would have been fun, but actually to get a behind-the-scenes tour of how Disney operates with excellence, how they treat their customers, right? How they engage, so that transferable knowledge can come to our entrepreneurs to really understand what it takes to thrive at that level. And we got some additional training from the same training that Disney gives its employees. Our entrepreneurs receive that same training from the Disney Leadership Institute. So we think of some really creative ways. And this year, in about 2 weeks, actually we're going back to Orlando. We're going to spend an additional day, and Disney increased this commitment. We're actually taking about 100 people down from Atlanta to Orlando to have that opportunity. Another one of our partnerships is with UPS. So UPS did something with us that they've never done in their entire over 100-year history. We have a warehouse space that's about 5,000 square feet. UPS basically partnered with us to build basically a mini logistics center. So our entrepreneurs get to understand fulfillment and warehousing at a small scale, also providing some education with that for, again, product-based companies to understand the warehousing and transportation industry, how to operate, how to function. There's also inside that space a UPS store, so just like basically a mail store. So our entrepreneurs get discounted services from UPS at a store that only they get to use. So this store is not even open to the general public. It's only available for our entrepreneurs. Again, something that UPS has never done in over their 100-year history. They partnered with us because they saw the value of doing that. And I'll give you one other example. With the Atlanta Hawks professional basketball team in Atlanta, partnered with us on an executive speaker series. So we had an opportunity to engage with their top level leaders on what it takes to run a sports and entertainment, behemoth, right? So we got to tour the stadium, but also we got to sit and listen to not only the top executives, but also other people who have their feet on the ground every day in marketing and finance and sales and customer service, because the whole goal, right, is to connect our entrepreneurs with experts in their industry. And that's one of the critical things that we do when we focus on collaboration. So oftentimes we don't come to the table with a proposal. We come to the table with another partner and say, what's going to be good for you, but also what can be good for us? What can we come together with that you get some ROI from it, we get some ROI from it, then we'll put that on paper. Now let's go have some fun and do it together. So I'm going to close with this, just with a couple of pointers as it relates to, as you're thinking about building collaboration, as you're thinking about even leveraging the network that you already have, how do you leverage it more effectively? How do you leverage it more impactfully for the people that you're serving, in particular entrepreneurs? So one is dream big and dream together. See, did it come up? Yeah, dream big and dream together. And again, oftentimes we limit ourselves only by what we can think about. We limit ourselves only by what we've seen done in the past. That's why when we come to the table, we don't even use a standard proposal. We don't even have a template. What we come to the table with is, again, how do we dream together? How do we make something that's impactful for both parties? Next is demonstrate impact. Now, that's one of the most critical things is sometimes before you get to the table, whatever you've been doing in the past, you need to capture that. How are you telling the story of how you've impacted businesses and organizations leading up to this point? Again, this could be as a nonprofit and as a small business, because any partnership that you get into, and that could be personal, business, corporate, right? It all comes down to what have you done in the past and what do you bring to the table? So how do you document and demonstrate your impact? Also thinking long term. If it's only a transactional relationship, typically those aren't going to go very far and you're probably not going to be very creative. All of the relationships I talked about before and most of those logos that you saw on that screen, we think long term, 3-5 years out, not just what can happen now. And sometimes some things don't work. So we'll go into a relationship, we tried something, it didn't work. Guess what? We're not going to kick each other, to the curb. We're going to keep working with each other to figure out what can be next. Collaboration against competition. If you saw the video earlier from our CEO, Jay Bailey, he talked about also Mr. Russell, right? Collaboration over competition, right? Sometimes we look in and see it seems like there's minimal opportunities in the marketplace. Sometimes you just got to create a bigger opportunity, right? From that standpoint. But if you're working together to do that, it allows you to be able to do that, which then leads really to the risk component, being able to embrace risk. Because again, this is risky business. Entrepreneurship is risky business. Relationships can be very risky. Collaboration can be very risky. So if both parties aren't willing to embrace that risk, which entrepreneurs have to do every single day, it can be very challenging. So if you're not willing to embrace that risk, it's going to be hard to enter into a relationship, a collaborative relationship, right, that both parties can benefit from. And then lastly, supporting each other's ROI, right, return on investment. Sometimes we only think about our own. What am I trying to get out of this relationship? If you want a true collaborative partnership, you need to be thinking about how do I help you achieve your ROI? What can I do to help you grow? What can I do to help you benefit? What can I do, right, to help you expand? What can I do to help you increase your impact? Because when you come to the table in that way, it allows the other party to say, on the flip side, what they can do to help you. So when we talk about collaborative partnerships, collaborative innovation, right, you have to come at it with a completely different perspective than you would just in a normal business transaction. And I believe these are to me, I say part of the DNA of the Russell Center of how we operate, how we integrate into our communities, how we support entrepreneurs as we think about how can we not only be collaborative, but innovative in our collaborative relationships. Hopefully many of these things you all are already doing, but if not, you can kind of add to your repertoire and your toolkit in terms of building collaborative relationships, building innovation, because ultimately, you all are trying to do the exact same thing we're trying to do. Build black business, right? And not only because we want to know that those black businesses, right, have the opportunity not only impact their own business, but their communities, their families, but ultimately their entire nation, and then ultimately the entire world.
We wanted to have an opportunity to take possibly 2 quick questions for Paul.
I'm a student at Chambogo University doing Bachelor of Arts in Economics. I heard Paul talk about students, and I'd like to know what are the opportunities for students, for Ugandans, more so in public universities? How can we engage and partner with you?
I'm going to help Paul out with this question, but first, maybe can I amend it a little bit and say, in Atlanta, when university students are interested in business, what sort of resources does Rice have with universities? And then I'm going to take the question for Ugandan students.
Thank you, Paul, very much. Thank you indeed. I want to ask about collaboration. As a student at university, I attempted to start a students' cooperative to actually go into production together. So many years later, I still struggle with this question of working together. I know that individually, we are too small to make a difference, but organized together, we can overturn the market. I'm talking in the context of us mostly being smallholders, whichever way you look at it. So my question to you is, how easy does it come? I mean, you give it to us as a tip. My journey hasn't shown it to be that easy. How is it over there? Allow me to just say that all sorts of reasons come up. We come from a background where people have lost trust because of ABCD. We come from a background because originally we are not in business. We come from a background. But here we are today. How is it for you? It's very, very important for me.
So I'll answer the student question first. And then, we're fortunate to be where our building is located, right across the street from about 4 to 5 historically black colleges and universities called HBCUs. And so what we look at is basically say, what resources do we have that can support those students, but also what resources actually are on the campuses for those students that actually we can collaborate with. So again, that's another opportunity for collaboration, another opportunity for partnership to say if there's something that the university can't support that student in, they can literally, in our case, almost walk across the street, and we have space, we have programs, we have ways to invite them to the process. But also we look at it and see what are they already good at, because we don't want to duplicate anything that the university is already doing. So it's a lot of how do we match up our strengths together, but also where we look for those gaps from that standpoint. Because again, even with the universities, sorry about that. My alarm going off from earlier. Even with the universities, right, it's important for us to think through collaboration, how we can support students from that standpoint.
Let me add on to this. As you can see from Paul, in America, we like to start connecting students with business opportunities young. And so organizations like the Rice Center in Atlanta have relationships with universities. And I would love to encourage Enterprise Uganda, Innovation Village, and other organizations that support entrepreneurs here in Uganda to reach out and make those connections with universities, because you are the next generation of business leaders. And to start building those relationships early can only help you and your industries. Now, at the U.S. Embassy, we have some opportunities for university students as well. Some of them are online. And I mentioned the Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI. There's an online network called the YALI Network, which is free and open to anybody, including students. And there are a lot of courses for business leaders on that YALI network. So I would encourage you to register for the YALI network. Even this week, they're offering some special courses for Global Entrepreneurship Week, and anybody in this room could register. And don't be afraid of those online programs. It's amazing how much you can learn through free online resources. Take advantage of them. YALI is one of many. There are others out there. You can look up the Dream Builder course, which is the basis of what we do with the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs. It's free, open to the public. Take advantage of those. A lot of American universities have free online courses. MIT, Harvard, Stanford all offer free access to videotaped courses from some of the most elite professors at American universities. You can take those too. So seek out those opportunities. Find somewhere with free Wi-Fi and sit and watch a few courses. Anybody can do it, and I would pursue those opportunities independently. Also, we do have opportunities for in-person training at the Kampala American Center, where Paul will be speaking this week. And that is also a free resource where we often host courses. There's been STEM boot camps for women, entrepreneurship training courses, skills building like resume writing, CV writing, job interview skill training that you can join and apply for free. And then I do want to mention that if anybody is interested in study opportunities in the United States, there's a great resource called Education USA, which is, again, a free website, but we also have an advisor who sits at the American Center who can help advise on how you would apply to and seek funding to study in the United States. It is competitive, it is challenging, and it goes to some of the messages Paul was saying about demonstrating your impact. If you want to study in the United States, you need to demonstrate that you have been an excellent scholar, active in your school community, active outside your school community, and you can write. And so you'll see that for a lot of applications to anything with the United States is demonstrating your impact. So you need to constantly be thinking about how can you show that you are a leader in your field. So now, to the question of collaboration, I'm going to turn back to Paul.
Thank you. And as Amy was talking, I thought of actually one other thing right before I answered the collaboration question. So this actually, I'm going to challenge every entrepreneur in the room with this. Find a student that they can be an intern at your business, right? That's one of the best ways to give students an opportunity. So as they're learning in school, if they can become an intern at your business, now they're learning in school and they're learning in the real world. So that's another way to bridge that gap for students who are hungry, who are looking for opportunities, then to be able to plug into your business and bring maybe some fresh ideas and some insights, right, to your business. So that's a great opportunity, and that's real life education, right, in the process of you growing your business. And they can be an assistance to you, but it's also an assistance to them, right, as a student. And lastly, just to the point of collaboration, no, relationships are not easy, right? We still have trust issues in the United States in our own community, right? So it's still very challenging. What I would say, though, is you have to find, even if it's one person at a time, who you have shared values with, right? You have a shared purpose, right? You have a shared mission. And if that person, and you two can't get together and say we have shared values, shared purpose, shared mission, that's probably not someone you can partner with. It's probably not someone you would want to partner with. So I think that's really the foundation of building collaboration and relationship. What do we share together that we can collaborate on, partner on, that we believe in? Because again, as things get difficult and challenging, it's that foundation of your values, right? That's those shared values, that shared mission, right, that keep you together. Because some of those relationships on that screen that I showed took 1, 2, 3 years to actually get in place. Most of them were not overnight. And most of them actually took the process of the first idea wasn't the final idea, right? The first idea just got us to the table, but it took work and process and bringing different people in to actually finalize something where we actually can say, let's put a contract right in place, and this is what we're going to work on together. So it takes time, but also, again, make sure you have a shared value, shared purpose, and a shared mission, even if you have to start one person at a time and grow from there. Thank you.